What a difference 20 years makes, and in some ways, what a difference it doesn't make. Back in 1990, when Nelson Mandela was released, I used to come here with a BBC camera team to report and film violent protests and confrontations between those demanding an end to apartheid and the police, equally determined to suppress all protest. Here would be tear gas, running battles, police running with whips. Now, some things haven't changed. There's still a housing crisis. There are still squatters living here. There's still a great deal of poverty, but at least the people are free. So far, I've been meeting South Africans with very strong memories of the day Nelson Mandela was released. But the future of this country belongs, of course, to those too young to know that day except as a day in history. So I've come to the University of Cape Town, overwhelmingly white when I lived here, to show a group of 20-year-olds a BBC report from the late 1980s of their university as a political battleground.
The Senate House and the University quadrangle were swamped in tear smoke. The police tried to stop cameramen before moving closer.
They beat bystanders as they headed onto the campus, drawing taunts from groups of students.
This was the most violent campus unrest since the imposition of the state of emergency last June.
I never realized the police actually came onto campus. What I thought was also interesting was how the brutality against even white students. It wasn't necessarily always a race thing. It was also about the ideals.
Why do young people like you, who come from the townships, still find it difficult to get into a prestigious university like this?
Preparation, I think. We sort of have different societal influences and a sort of different academic support structure and that sort of thing. So you'd find we don't necessarily have a study room at home, or you don't have parents who are educated enough to motivate you to go further and stuff like that. And so you really find yourself having to individually push and, you know, just take yourself there if you see yourself going somewhere.
You've got to be a fighter.
Yeah, basically.
But is it going to be a tougher life for you as a young white person? Because after all, you're facing competition from people of all races in a way in which actually your parents' generation didn't.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they always say it was so much easier for them because they could just basically, they just had to scrape through everything and they would just be handed, you know, they got into university without thinking about it and they could just go on and on doing all kinds of things, and the jobs they walked into without thinking about it, whereas it's a bit more difficult for us.
I think I'm just a bit concerned about, okay, I'll be completely honest, you know, what if, you know, Mandela dies? What could happen? Is it still going to be, you know, sort of equality? Will there still be black economic empowerment? What will change?
You mean because he's such a unifying force that people
yes, it's exactly
behave well as long as he's there?
Almost, yeah, in that light.
Where Nelson Mandela walked to freedom 20 years ago, the moment is held forever now. The prison is still a prison. It's just there are no political prisoners in South Africa anymore. For sure, there's still work to be done in this country. But for me, looking across to Robben Island, a museum now, the new South Africa Nelson Mandela has done so much to create is symbolised by something quite different. The shining stadium at Greenpoint, built for this year's World Cup. Was this going to be a great year for the country?
Absolutely. I firmly believe the commemoration of the speech of the 2nd of February, of the actual release of Mr. Mandela, is a milestone in the history of South Africa again. It reminds us all of the need for reconciliation.
We have a golden key in our hands that just might open the door to the kind of South Africa many of us were working for, many have died for, many were tortured for. A South Africa that is a home for everyone. And hey man, God took some time creating God's own country.
And we're here.
Fantastic country, fantastic country, fantastic country.
Nelson Mandela, at the age of 91, is celebrating his 20 years of freedom quietly, privately.
He's a jolly good fellow.
But he has been celebrating with other veterans of the anti-apartheid struggle, with Winnie Mandela and his family.
And so say all of us.
Nelson Mandela appears in public only rarely now, but this was the moment last year when he cast his vote. A right won at enormous cost to many South Africans, the right for which he sacrificed so much of his life and for which he was prepared to die.
Let us walk and work together. To freedom. Long way, long walk, long walk to freedom. Long walk to freedom. Let us walk in the land of God. Together. Long walk to freedom.